It's a House Settlement Monday. NDSU has to decide today, are they going to opt in or are they going to opt out? Also, the Timberwolves make some key extensions over the weekend, and the Minnesota Twins get embarrassed on national TV. A lot to talk about. Hot Mic starts right now.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No.
I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to this Decision Day edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on inform.com and WDAY Plus. What a day today. It's a House Settlement Monday. We're back in it. The decision has to be made for North Dakota State. It is June 30th. Are they going to opt in or are they going to opt out of this House settlement? We'll have a lot of House settlement talk today. We're scrambling here as we hit the air at 9 o'clock. We got some breaking news here for you. We'll get to that in just a second. Again, good morning. Hope you all had a good weekend. Sam Getzinger filling in for Dom Izzo. He is in his homeland of New York for this week. So you're stuck with me for the next 5 days as we get ready for the holiday weekend and as we get ready for the start of July coming up here. Looking forward to be back. It's I was here a couple of weeks ago. Last week, Dom took over. Now I'm back. I'll take my vacation when he gets back. But a lot to get to this week. It's a newsy Monday. We are in that point of the year where we've crossed into that point where the action on the field, the court, what have you, is slowing down. But the logistical side of the world of sports is just picking up. I know for some people that is not their cup of tea. For some people, they absolutely love it. I'm a little mixture of both. We're going to try to dissect everything that we can today. Not a doubt about that. As I mentioned, of course, today is the deadline for universities to tell the NCAA, hey, we're going to opt into this thing, the House settlement I'm talking about, or we're going to opt out of this. We're not going to deal with that. The 2-week extension that was granted has come and gone, and can say, as of what time is it? 9:03 on this Monday morning, we know the decision now of North Dakota State. The word was just released right as the open of the show was coming out. So breaking news to start your Monday morning. The burning question we've all been waiting the answer for has finally come. Just got the release here. Haven't had any time to digest it, so we're doing this live on TV, which is always a lot of fun. So bear with us here on this Monday morning. North Dakota State. After a lot of talk going back and forth, are they going to opt in? Are they going to opt out? It was looking either way for a long time there. As of 9 o'clock on this Monday morning, they have decided that they will opt in to the House settlement. That now makes all 4 Dakota schools officially opted into the House settlement. UND did on Friday. The South Dakota schools did earlier than that. Now North Dakota State has finally made their decision on deadline day, waited till the last minute. And personally, I'm okay with that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that were wondering and seeing all the other Dakota schools coming in. What's taken North Dakota State so long? What is there to think about? Well, there's a lot to think about. This is a very complicated decision that every university at the Division I level had to look through. So in the release here, it states, opting into the settlement allows NDSU greater flexibility in providing benefits to student athletes, including name, image, and likeness opportunities. direct compensation and scholarships for all rostered student athletes. By opting in for 2025-2026, NDSU may designate student athletes to keep on rosters in excess of the settlement's roster limits until they complete their eligibility or transfer from the university. Schools that opt in for 26-27 or later years are suggested to immediate roster limits. Saw that. Dom's on vacation, but he's been working. I can tell you that much. He's got his nose to the grindstone on all this. No doubt about that. You see it there. Big question. What's going to happen to the collectives in all of this? Green and Gold Collective will be phased out beginning tomorrow. New Green and Gold Fund has been created to help with NIL. So what does that mean? We're going to find out more today. The kicker to all of this, there is a press conference later today. Matt Larson, the athletic director at NDSU, will have a press conference at 2 o'clock today. We will have that for you on WDAY+. We are going to learn a lot more of the burning questions, the answers to the burning questions that we have regarding this decision. But you can see it there. Green and Gold Collective will be phased out. Green and Gold Fund is coming to the door. Lot to get to, lot to unpack on this. Again, this is a decision. This is in the release. This is a decision that we entered into with much deliberation and debate over its impact on the future of Bison athletics, said Matt Larson. We truly believe that opting into the House settlement will allow us to continue to be leaders at the FCS and mid-major level in providing financial support and resources to our student athletes. The ability to provide institutional NIL along with scholarships, cost of attendance, and Alston awards will keep NDSU positioned at the top of the subdivision. So we got our answer. And it's been interesting to follow this. I was going to save this for later because I wasn't sure when this decision was going to come out, but let's dive into it here a little bit. Of course, later on today, we're going to chat about Twins as well. Want to chat about the Timberwolves coming up on this Monday morning. They've been making some waves in the free agency realm as well. We're going to get to all that. The big news today, again, is the House settlement with the decisions being made. And I want to run through some of the basics on this. I know Dom had a full show dedicated to what the House settlement is and breaking it down a couple of weeks ago. And it's been said on this show, and I'm sure you can come to the conclusion yourself as well. If you're trying to follow along with this, it is confusing. Very, very confusing. Even for those that are in it every single day. I'm not in it every single day. And I'll be the first to tell you before we get into this whole House settlement conversation throughout the day today, or throughout the morning, I should say, I was in the same boat as a lot of you. This is all over my head, mumbo jumbo talk to me. I just want to see the athletes play. And I think that was case in point for a lot of fans. And you still may be thinking that. Not a doubt. I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't blame you one bit. It's confusing. But here we are. And I tell you, a lot of people may not care, but I think you should at least be in tune to this at some point. For the way things are going to change. This is just the beginning. And we've been talking about this for how long now? This is just the beginning. We're just getting started in this new world of college athletics. So, tune in a little bit. Again, press conference coming today at 2 o'clock on WDAY+. You may want to tune into that, learn a lot more, get a good grasp on what's going on at North Dakota State, because we're going to see changes. Will that change the impact on the field, the court, the diamonds? Most likely, absolutely. Will it happen immediately? Probably not. It'll take a little bit of time. Recap the basics on this for those that don't know. The House versus NCAA is an antitrust lawsuits, I should say, that essentially claimed the NCAA's limits on name, image, and likeness payments prevented athletes from getting their true market value. So if you were to opt out of this, really nothing changed. If you were to opt into this, a lot's going to change. So now that NDSU has made this decision to opt in, what does that mean? Well, schools now have the ability to revenue share with athletes up to $20.5 million in the first year. Now, don't let that $20.5 million, don't let that fool you. Don't get too caught up on that number. That's mainly for the big Power 4 schools. $20.5 million, not a lot of FCS or mid-major programs are going to fundraise up to that point because that's where that money comes from. So don't get too worked up on that. $20.5 million is essentially the salary cap, if you will. And that number will adjust over the next couple of years. It's based on a lot of math, and I'm not a math guy, I'll tell you that much. Again, collectives, they can still be a thing, but as you just saw in this case, that Green and Gold Collective is going to change to the Green and Gold Fund. What does that mean? We'll figure that out as the day and the week continues on. So no doubt about that. Anything over $600 in the NIL world will have to go through a clearinghouse. That's Deloitte. Now, if the collective were still going to run as it was, anything under $600 can go through them. Also very important is the roster limits, and this was a key factor in a lot of the schools' decisions on if they were going to go in or if they were going to go out. We heard a lot of schools, SDSU, UND being some of them, that were leaning, nah, probably not, because of the roster limits. And then eventually that became a decision that you could grandfather those roster limits in, and that swayed a lot of people. It swayed UND. We're going to learn a lot more about UND's decision to opt in, by the way, coming up later on the show. We'll get to that in just a little bit. That swayed UND's decision. I imagine it swayed SDSU's decision as well, as they were leaning to opt out. But now that they have a planning phase to get to that point, that made things a little easier. Can gradually happen over a couple of years. No scholarship limits. If you're thinking in football terms, no scholarship limits for the Missouri Valley Football Conference. What are these schools going to do with the scholarship part of things? We've heard a lot. They're probably going to stretch out more. Now, when we say scholarships, just to clarify, that doesn't mean everybody's getting a full ride. They're getting something there. That was a question I got as well from a couple of people over the last couple of weeks. It's not everybody's getting full rides here. You can stretch out your scholarships a little bit more, and will that impact play on the field? Probably. Wouldn't doubt it. There's a ton to this. That is the bare minimum. There's back pay. There's damage pay. A whole lot. We're going to talk about it throughout the show here. But again, that's just the tip of the iceberg on everything that's going on. NDSU has opted in. As I mentioned, UND has opted in as well. They sent out their release on Friday. Interesting from Bill Chaves, who we're going to have on the show later on this morning. He says, with a requirement to make a decision by Monday, June 30th, which is today, we felt that this was the most prudent course of action. There was always a chance that when the final settlement occurred, that it could be different than what was initially provided by both the plaintiffs' and defendants' attorneys, and sure enough, that was the case. Given that roster grandfathering can only occur should institutions opt in at this moment of time, we believe that opting in is the best for UND. Additionally, I believe the opportunity to expand our partnership with our teammates at the UND Alumni Association and Foundation, 1883 Collective, and Ralph Engelstad Arena will provide us the best situation possible for our student athletes for this year and beyond. So the question there, what's going to happen to the collective for the University of North Dakota, the 1883 Collective? Sounds like it's still going to be there. We're going to ask Bill about that as well, get his thoughts on that, and what the course of action is moving forward. I'm genuinely curious what needs to happen now that the decision has been made by the Dakota schools. What needs to happen now in order to make this a successful stretch moving forward? All the talk has been, are you going to opt in or are you going to opt out? But once you've made that decision to opt in, UND, NDSU, SDSU, USD, what do you do now to make it successful? How do you follow along with Title IX restrictions, which I know all of these schools are keeping at the forefront? Just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to learn a lot more. And again, press conference later on today, 2 o'clock on WDAY+. We'll have that for you. And if you miss it, we'll recap it for you later on as well. Here's our poll question for today. I'm genuinely curious what you think. What do you make of NDSU opting into the House settlement? Do you love it? Do you not like it? Do you not know? Do you not care? Do you even know what this means? I am a mixture of a lot of those. What does this mean? I think we're going to find out more as the time goes on and the process goes on with all of this. We're going to get a lot more into this House settlement. I know, and we've talked about it in the show. I'm probably not going to do it. It's due diligence. But we got some great guests coming in to let us know what that's all about. Before we go into our first break here, go into the commercial here, get started on this Monday morning, I do want to talk about the Twins for a little bit here. And then we get into our best of the weekend. Twins had a series over this past weekend against the Detroit Tigers on the road in Detroit. Of course, they're coming into that series after splitting with Seattle, taking 2 of 4 at home. Game 1 of the series against Detroit on Friday. Byron Buxton and the Twins had a little help from the pitching staff. Went on to get a 4-1 win. At that point, you're thinking, all right, 3-game win streak. Twins are back in town. Let's go. Well, that was not the case. Saturday rolled around and Detroit put on a home run derby against Minnesota. And they showed why they're the top team in the AL Central. So the deciding game of the series was last night on national television, Sunday Night Baseball, Detroit and Minnesota. And I tell you what, the Tigers went from a home run derby to an absolute pitching clinic. We'll show you the clips of Game 3 from yesterday. Tarek Skubal and the Tigers, just absolutely phenomenal. Top of the first, Skubal gets Byron Buxton down swinging with a changeup. Later in the inning, a 3-0 count for Carlos Correa, and he does the cardinal sin as a batter. Gives up the 3-0 count. Skubal, fastball, changeup. See you later. And you could tell that was just going to be a sign of what's to come for the Twins last night on Sunday Night Baseball. Top of the second, Skubal, strikeout, and strikeout. Cuts down the side. Phenomenal display to start the game. Carlos Correa was mic'd up and actually said, hey, can you mic up Skubal and distract him a little bit? He was not distracted at all. Just a masterful performance. Strikeout. What is that up to? 5 at this point? Top of the fourth. Strikeout. 99-mile-an-hour fastball. Good luck touching that. We go later on into the game. Tarek Skubal, again, hurling strikeout. Sit him down. Skubal only needed 11 batters to strike out the entire Twins starting lineup. That's tied for the third fewest batters faced to strike out a starting lineup since 1961. Oh my goodness. The low changeup and the high fastball combination, mixing it up, was extremely effective. Skubal had 11 strikeouts through 5 innings. 5 innings. That's really hard to do. He would eventually get pulled after the 7th. He would finish the game with 13 Ks. 13 Ks. Only 1 walk as well. The Twins' bats, they only mustered 2 hits throughout the entire game. And those 13 strikeouts, he, by the way, only gave up 1 of those hits. Those 13 strikeouts are the most while allowing 0 or 1 hit in a game in Tigers history. History made for the Detroit Tigers and Tarek Skubal. And the Twins on national television struggle again. The only 2 hits in the game came from Ty France and Harrison Bader. Christian Vasquez had the lone walk. That was a win at that point. So a tough one. 3-0 win for Detroit. Tigers are now 53-32. Minnesota is now 40-44. The road struggles continue, 18-27 in games away from Target Field. Here's the deal with the Twins. They have the day off today. They are back in action tomorrow against the Miami Marlins. And good news for the Twins, the Miami Marlins, they're well below 500. The bad news for the Twins, The Marlins have won the last 7 games in a row. Just can't catch a break in Minnesota. We'll see. We'll see if this is going to be a tough one or not. Joe Ryan has the start in Game 1 coming up tomorrow. Over his last 5 outings, he's gone 5 innings or more. He's 8-3 on the season. Good sign there. They have Edward Cabrera, who is 2-2 with a 3.78 ERA. So we'll see what the Twins can do. Try to climb back in this, and hopefully the month of July is better than the month of June. We'll have to see. But the month of June capped off with an exclamation point, just to add insult to injury, a strikeout fest. And for those that missed the game, it felt like if you woke up and looked at the notifications that the Twins got burnt by a perfect game yesterday. That's just how good the performance was by Skubal. Impressive stuff from him. Not much the Twins could do about that. All right. We need to digest here on this Monday morning. We need to regroup, get back into it for the rest of the show here with the breaking news that just came down to start the show today. Our guest lineup today brought to you by Northwestern Mutual to help break down all the ins and outs of this. Jeff Kolpack coming in a little earlier than normal on this Monday morning. Chat about the now decision for North Dakota State to opt into the House settlement. A lot more to talk about with our guy Jeff Kolpack this morning as well. Also at 10 o'clock, Bill Chaves, the athletic director for the University of North Dakota, will join us to start hour number 2. Talk about what went into their decision to opt into the House settlement and what this means moving forward for Fighting Hawks student athletes, the collective, the fan base. A lot of questions up in the air. Bill will help us answer some of those coming up at 10 o'clock. A lot to get to on this Monday morning. Let's regroup, come back, get into our best of the weekend. That's coming up next on Hot Mic. Let's put a pause on our house settlement talk here for a couple of minutes and have a little fun on our best of the weekend. We do it each and every Monday morning at this time. Some of the best things that happen locally over the weekend. Of course, the NHL draft was this weekend. And for hockey fans in the FM area, all eyes and ears were fixated on one name. And that name was Sam Larilla, a Moorhead native who went on to play for the U.S. under-18 team, eventually went on to play for the Fargo Force, was phenomenal inside of Shields Arena, was the USHL Defenseman of the Year this past season, and he will soon take his talents to Grand Forks to help out the University of North Dakota Fighting Hawks. Now, Sam was draft eligible last season, but his name didn't get called, and I think it's safe to say after the weekend, that wait was well worth it because on Saturday, the wait came to an end. And with the 138th pick in the draft, the New York Islanders selected Sam in the 5th round. Cool story. He was at his lake house with his friends and family, got the call, and was immediately shipped over to New York. So he's over there right now. He told me that he'll be back July 5th. Get back in the swing of things and get ready to come up to the University of North Dakota. But it's another drafted Fighting Hawk on the way. Another drafted Moorhead native as well. Larilla is the first draft pick from Moorhead since Will Borgen over a decade ago when he went 92nd overall to the Buffalo Sabres. I saw that a decade ago. Couldn't believe it. I'm starting to feel old here. I didn't think Borgen got drafted that long ago. He's in New York, too. He's with the Rangers. So if you're a Moorhead hockey fan, all eyes should turn to New York. The Islanders, the Rangers. A lot of good talent over there from Minnesota. Minnesota had another killing in the NHL draft. I think they dominated. They had the most amount of American-born players. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but there was a significant gap between Minnesota and the second closest state with the most amount of American-born players drafted. It's another cool sign there. Congratulations to Sam. Going to kill it moving forward. Again, we won't see Sam in the NHL for a little while. Got to go to UND, develop his skills a little bit more. And then from there, who knows? It could be, depending on what happens, could be a quick jump to the NHL, could be the AHL, could be the ECHL. We'll have to see. 6 UND recruits had their names called over the weekend. Cole Reshney was the highest at 18th overall. He went to the Calgary Flames. So another good weekend for the University of North Dakota. I want to say their program had the 3rd most draft picks in this draft, which is always a good sign. New coach coming in as well. New players entering the door. Good time to get back on the bandwagon of Fighting Hawks hockey, I feel like. Reshney's going to join Lorilla on the team coming up here in just a matter of months as they get ready for the season. So congratulations to Sam, the newest draftee from Moorhead to go to the NHL. Let's now turn our attention over to Toledo, Ohio, because there was football being played at the end of June. No, it wasn't the NFL. It wasn't some semi-pro league. It wasn't the UFL, the XFL, what have you. It was the Italian Bowl. Yes, professional football from teams that are based in Italy, but their Super Bowl, if you will, was played in Toledo, Ohio. Why? I have no clue. And frankly, the game doesn't matter. Firenze beat Ancona 49-14. Who cares about that? But that guy right there is why we care. That's a name that you'll remember because playing in this Super Bowl of Italian football was one Tyler Terhart, a West Fargo Cheyenne graduate and a Bison football alum, now making waves in the overseas professional football world. And I tell you what, he had quite the game here. 12 catches, 112 yards in the Italian Bowl, and of course his team didn't win, but who cares? And I was doing some research on this because I had never heard of the Italian Football League until this weekend. And I was doing some research on this to figure out what it was all about, and come to find out that Tyler is actually one of the best receivers in this league. He's also one of the best punt returners in this league as well. And again, had a good performance, over 100 yards. Fun seeing him back in the uniform. We'll have to have him on at some point later on this week to chat about what it's like playing football in Italy and just adjusting to the culture of that. Because going from North Dakota your whole life over to Italy, I'm sure that's a culture shock. No doubt about that. So congratulations to Tyler on a successful year, being one of the best receivers and punt returners in the IFL. Unfortunate that his team didn't win, but hopefully they can do well in the future, and hopefully it leads to good opportunities for Tyler as well. Tyler Terhart and Sam Larilla are our best of the weekend here on this Monday morning. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, our guy Jeff Kolpack joins us in studio. A lot to break down with him. House Settlement Monday continues when we come back on Hot Mic.
It's that time. An author.
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2, I forgot.
Golfer.
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
And one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4. I should have yelled 2.
Jeff Kolpack back with us
morning,
on this
Sammy.
Monday morning. How are you doing, man?
Well, let's go time here at the old university up north, opting in.
Don't they know on Monday, the NCAA, you got to ease into Mondays, and that's just not the case.
Never got that memo.
Never got that memo. How you doing? How was your weekend before we get into the nitty-gritty of all this?
Weekend was really good. Thanks for asking. I know you really care.
I'm curious.
You know,
I just
I
want
really
to make
care.
Sure you're getting rest. You're getting your rest in.
But big story with well, here's the thing. You know, the big story of opting in, which was announced this morning, and there's a press conference at 2 today. But it's the biggest story that I think fans really don't care much about.
Exactly.
Because you're not going to see a difference. When you go to the Fargo Dome this fall and watch the football team, the fact that the university opted into the settlement or out, whichever decision it was, you weren't going to notice. You weren't going to notice any difference. Where, I mean, it's a huge decision. It ranks up there with all the stuff I've covered, I believe, like the Division I decision. But that fans notice because in 2004, when they went to Division I schedule, they noticed because they're playing Division I teams now.
Right, exactly.
Now with this house settlement, so they're going to phase roster cuts over a few years to 105. And I think the biggest news of all this is the Green and the Gold Collective will be blended into the Green and the Gold Fund now, which will be more under the Team Makers guys, I believe. And so, and that to me is the biggest story, that the collective has done big things in the last couple of years. Big things. Jay and Kurt and those guys, I mean, they stepped up to the plate at a time when it's not like people were in line for that job.
Right. That's a difficult thing to jump into.
Yeah.
And they came in. And
it's not like they were elbowing people out of the way to do that.
Right. And I think what they did over the last couple of years, you can see the progress that they made and how much it's helped the athletes and what the success that has helped brought success to this university. And I'm glad you brought all that up, because I wanted to dive deeper into all of that, because I think I'm in the same boat as a lot of the fans that you mentioned. This is all over my head, and I'm sure it's over a lot of people's head, and they try to follow along as best as they can, but they may not, like you said, see the changes. I'm curious, though, they may not see it right away, but would they see it down the road, you think, when it comes to ticket price? Because you got to come up with this money somewhere.
Well,
ticket
the biggest
prices,
thing,
what have you?
I don't know. You're always generating money and revenue, and who knows where what sources you go after. But I think the biggest thing now with the collective, with everything coming in-house, meaning NDSU under its athletic department guideline, or under the department, will now be able to disperse funds to student athletes. Those donations to the collective or the fund or whatever you want to call it now, the Green and the Gold Fund, are tax deductible, which they weren't before to the Green and the Gold Collective. And so that's a big deal. I'm not going to speak for you. You may have a lot of money that you just throw and at athletic departments at, what's your alma mater again?
St. Cloud State.
St. Cloud State. Are you a big donor to the collective at St. Cloud State? But now it's tax deductible if it's in-house.
Yes. Okay. I was reading the release here, and just like you mentioned, there are fans of businesses who wish to support NDSU student athletes through institutional NIL can now make tax-deductible contributions to NDSU team makers through the newly created Green and Gold Fund. So that essentially means take what you're doing and just shift it over there. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, essentially, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
but now they're going to hire this NIL business manager too.
Can you
under
speak on
Leafier.
that and what that means? Because not a lot of universities have that, or to the level that NDSU
mid-major.
has.
Yeah. So what this position's going to do is essentially blend. I use that with the Green, but they're going to marriage the NIL opportunities with local businesses. That'll be part of that job.
Okay. I feel like you kind of need that.
Have you seen the Bryce Lance North Dakota National Guard commercial? Really good.
I saw your article you wrote about it. I hadn't seen it just yet. I'll have to pull it up when we get into commercial here. But that's the kind of stuff that, are we going to see more of that, you think?
Maybe companies are on board now with hiring athletes to be their spokespeople. I started with Cam Miller and the mattress.
That was a big
one. Which my commercial is better than his, by the way. My mattress commercial.
I haven't seen your mattress commercial, actually.
Well, it's
I'm surprised
long
Logan,
gone.
I'm surprised Logan didn't send it to me.
Long gone.
I'll have to dig that up.
Apparently, I looked a little stiff.
That might make an appearance on Bison Game Day at some point, just to pull that out there. Are you surprised at all that it took till the final day of the deadline for this decision to come out?
Oh, I don't know. Not really. I think they've had this decision in mind. Their mind made up for a little bit now.
Right.
But in January, when Matt Larson first talked about this, and my first story on it, I think his quote was 99.9% for sure they're going to opt out. But now, why they opting in now? Because roster cuts aren't going to, say in football, right to 105. Instead, and then now with the tax deductible thing, I think coming makes more sense.
Yeah.
To take the collective in-house too.
And I think it's safe to say that grandfathering of the roster cuts, that was huge for schools to flip, like SDSU, UND, who were originally leaning, opting out, and then that came and changed.
UND announced in February it was opting out.
Yes, they did. And
they flat out already announced it.
And again, we're going to have
reverse course.
Right, we're going to have Bill Chaves on to start hour number 2 to talk about that a little bit more here as well. You touched on it, the transition from Division II, Division I, and then this transformative time. What's more crazy, or what has been crazier, this time period or that one?
That one, yeah, 100%. I mean, that was a time when, and there's opposition to it, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of hesitation to NDSU going from D2 to D1. And it's such a bigger paperwork trail, I want to say. And I actually told Matt Larson this last week. In a sense, I feel like this summer reminds me in a bit of 2004, 5, 6, when I was going into Gene Taylor's office once a week and going, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, okay.
You know, what's this transition thing? What you hiring these two jobs? What's going on? You know, where is the scheduling? And in a sense, I feel like I've been contacting the NDSU AD this summer, certainly more than I ever have in any summer.
Right, just to try to keep on track with what's going on. We have that press conference later on today. Matt Larson's going to.
It's going to be live here on WDAY+.
It's going to be on WDAY Plus, 2:00. We'll have that for you live over on the app. So make sure to tune into that. Matt Larson will talk about this decision for NDSU to opt in. I think it's important to say that this is just the beginning of all of this. We're going to see this for the next couple of years as teams phase in these roster limits and get used to paying the players directly. At the press conference today, what are the burning questions that you're hoping to have answered? What do you want to learn today?
Are you going to go right to 105 football scholarships?
Okay. I think that's
Can you?
And again, that's not all full scholarships. That's we're going to have split scholarships in there as well.
And the collective, and certainly the collective is going to be, how is that going to be, say, blended in from Jay and Kurt to now? Are they going to be part of the university? As consultants or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I go back to you're talking about 04, 05, 06, and that was just such a more public, a more public move.
And that's also something that fans could grasp around, right? Because they knew what was going on.
Oh, you're scheduling the Gophers, really?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that makes sense. Good history lesson there on my part because I wasn't here for that. I want to circle back to the scholarship aspect of that, and if they do decide to go to that 105, I mean, are we going to see a difference on the field if they get to that point?
Oh, yeah.
If they decide to
absolutely.
do that?
Yeah. I mean,
how come for someone that
105 scholarships? It's simple math. I'm not good at math, and neither are you.
No,
I know you stink as also.
I'm definitely not.
But I would assume 105 full rides for football, and it'll be interesting to see which FCS school is the first to do that. Now, when NDSU went from Division II to Division I, it went from 36 to 63, and it did it as fast as possible. Originally, they were going to try to phase it in, but Craig Bull came in and said, no, we need to go to 63 now, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
And they did, and that's why they were so good in the transition. They went 10-1 in 06 and 10-1 in 07. Will they do the same?
Okay, all right.
Because you can.
Right.
Will Montana State go to 105?
Right. Will these
Montana
others go to school?
No, if Montana State goes to 105, I guarantee you that the big money, the six-figure donors to NDSU athletics / football, I think there'll be, okay, how much?
Right. That's the key to success in this is the donors. Because, I mean, this money's got to come from somewhere, right? And if you don't have good donors and you opt into this, I mean, good luck.
NDSU's athletic endowment, was it? I did the story recently. 120 million?
Wow.
It's more than a lot of universities.
I do
total endowment.
Yeah.
Their athletic department endowment.
Right. So the support is there. I don't know. It's interesting stuff. We'll have to see, again, that press conference today, 2:00 on WDAY+. We'll have that for you live later on this afternoon. Let's pause for a second. When we come back, a lot more to talk about with Jeff Kolpack here on this Monday morning. We'll continue on. Hot Mic returns after this. Couple of minutes left here with our guy Jeff Kolpack.
Thank God we're done with this after today. This opt-in.
I was going to ask you about that. What are your thoughts? Are you happy that this is?
Well, I'm happy.
To the conclusion?
Yes, because it's hard to write it in a context that people can understand. It's just because there's so many prongs and I think difficulty to it.
It's easy to lose people, not a doubt about that. I'm totally in the same boat as you. I just got a text from the boss man, Dom Izzo, who's supposed to be on vacation, by the way.
Go on vacation, Dom.
He wanted to ask about the walk-ons and if those will be done and how many FCS schools can afford to even add scholarships. Walk-ons are pretty much – it's not going to happen immediately, right, with the roster cuts. But when you look down the bigger picture 5 years down the road, those success stories coming out
Yeah,
of the
it's
sticks.
another story.
I mean, that's not going to be around anymore, right?
Nobody better at a walk-on program than North Dakota State, especially with their offensive linemen and the way they develop players and they bring them in. And,
Right.
And now, eventually, you're not going to probably have that.
I think that's a sad deal.
It is a sad deal.
And where do those go? Where those kids go? Where do those stories go? Are they going to develop their skills like they would at a smaller school? Are they going to have the opportunity to make it to a smaller school?
Well, yeah, and you talk to a guy like Chris Kleiman at K-State, players 105 through 130, most of them are walk-ons or favors or, you can join the team. And those guys just want to be there. They enjoy being part of the team. They get good grades. They go to class.
Yeah.
They're part of the program. They work hard in practice, probably never play.
Yeah.
They're okay with that. And those are great teammates to have. And now, eventually, the 105 to 130, they're just not probably going to play. It's not like there's going to be 25 great FBS players looking for somewhere else to go, because generally those players would, if you they wouldn't play here either.
Right. I think that's
generally. I mean, there's always exceptions. Somebody might develop here and there.
Right.
But those kids they're awesome to have around the program, and now it's the old culture element. Boy, you can't value those guys enough that they're there just for the love of the game.
Absolutely. If you say that doesn't help build a program, I would strongly disagree with you. I think they're important to building a program, building a team that buys in, especially when they see stories like that. Second prong of that question from Don there, how many schools can actually afford to add scholarships at this level? It can't be very many, right?
No. That's a good question.
You're looking at the Dakotas probably, the Montanas, and really the upper echelon of the FCS of that.
Yeah, I don't know how well-funded some of the Lone Star, Tarleton States of the world.
Right.
Not sure how well-funded they are. I think, the East Coast teams probably not.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's a fund.
Probably will. And
we'll see. Apparently they got $100,000 million trillion coming in.
They got a ton. One more on the House settlement front. It involves the Summit League here. Of course, the Dakota schools are in. University of Nebraska Omaha has opted out. Do you see that as they listed a bunch of reasons, which actually make a lot of sense? And again, this is
Can you name one or two?
Yeah, one that I found interesting was how it impacts international student athletes. Their hockey program is 80% international. 25% of their full student athletes is coming from abroad. So what does
Canadians,
that mean? Yeah, what does that mean to paying them, and how does that impact things? They also said that the ever-changing world of what's going on at NIL is still unclear to them, and they don't feel like they want to opt in just yet. Title IX considerations are a big thing in that. They did say that essentially we can opt in later. Obviously, you're going to miss out on the grandfathering of roster ins, but we can opt in later, and sounds like they feel like they'll be
and they
in a
don't
good
have
spot.
Football. And they don't have football.
Exactly. That changes a lot. But when you look at it as a Summit League perspective, and what the baseball, basketball, what have you, does that put them a step behind in your mind or no?
No, I don't think so. Roster caps and limits on basketball, what from 15 to 12?
Yeah.
Just 13, 14, 15. Do those guys ever make a difference?
Hypothetically, if they did have football, then do you think that would change the conversation a little bit?
Yeah. They'd want to do the same thing that that all the Dakota schools are doing.
I would agree with that as well. I thought it was interesting because that's a new wrinkle that I hadn't heard as of yet, the international students and what that can mean from them, bringing in more complexities, as they say, and trying to navigate that world.
First I've heard of that. Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe that's something for things to consider, because there's international students at every single one of these universities. There's no doubt about that. A couple more before we let you go here. Bill Chaves coming in at 10 o'clock as well. NBA draft recently. Do you have what are your thoughts on Jackson Money and Grant Nelson getting an opportunity to play at the next level?
Good for them. Jackson, you can't ask for better than that to get an NBA summer team.
Yeah.
I don't think. And it'd be great if he made the NBA. It's going to be a tough deal. It's going to be a tough road, but I think that could lead to opportunities overseas if the NBA doesn't come calling. And you can make money overseas. I mean, you can make a good living over there.
Absolutely.
I like his frame in the European game, so I think he's great. Grant isn't seems like an ideal spot for him to make a roster.
They were looking for a big guy, and it seems like they found one or two, and Grant will have an opportunity to fight for a spot there. I think this is great exposure for North Dakota State basketball moving forward. You have two guys with their names tied all over to this. I think that helps on a recruitment level, what have you, don't you think?
Well, the level of play in this state has just gotten so much better, I think, over the last decade or so. You're just seeing Division I guys now. I mean,
right.
Archambault, you're just seeing better players. And it probably attributes that to the summer programs, I would imagine, the AAU stuff. Lucas Mormon's club. I mean, obviously that's played a hand in better players, and it helps when you're 6'10", too.
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard.
Yeah. Must be nice. You and I will both say that. Also wanted to get your thoughts on NDSU baseball and what's going on there. Of course, they had young studs go into the transfer portal, and did you see the news that Danny Lockenmeyer, a young reliever out of the bullpen for North Dakota State, decided to transfer to LSU, team that won the whole thing. North Dakota State played LSU earlier this year. That's a huge deal. I think that just goes on to show just the level of talent that North Dakota State had this past season.
Well, and then the Coney kid going to Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, yes.
So, yeah.
Schaffner to UNC as well.
And
TCU,
these are upper Midwest kids.
Right.
And again, I'll say that in baseball. Baseball in this part of the world has gotten a lot better in the last 10, 20 years. The indoor facilities have really helped tremendous. Fargo, West Fargo, they've got the development piece figured out.
Right.
You look at looking at these caps here and all the postseason, awards and wins and victories and tournament wins. So I just think that's a tribute to the way these youth coaches have developed talent in this state, Minnesota, South Dakota, over, and they've gotten so much better at it.
Right. I would totally agree with you. You can see that in the high school level, not just for baseball, but as you mentioned, for basketball as well. It's getting a lot better. I'll be really curious how they rebuild from this.
Yeah, I mean, in the 80s, if you had one or two kids out of Fargo Post 2 go college, I think that was the ceiling.
Yeah.
Now it feels like at least half the team plays college.
Right. Yeah. But I was doing the big school state tournament up in Grand Forks, and you look at Cheyenne, a team that was the 7 seed in the EDC tournament. Good part of their roster is going to college baseball, whether that's Division III, Division II, what have you, which I think is it's pretty impressive. No doubt about that.
Yep, and again, it's all about development.
Yeah.
It's all about development.
Absolutely. It's going pretty good. Jeff, I appreciate you coming in, taking some time on all this, and helping dissect this a little bit. I'm not doing it. It's due diligence, so I'm glad you could help out with this.
Without Dom, I can't think of a better right-hand man, Sammy.
Football's
coming.
It's coming. It's going to feel like a sigh of relief when we finally get into the swing of that.
Do you know how bad we're going to melt in the pregame show at the Citadel?
I feel like I'm going to be used to it now because you skipped out on the Moorhead Country Club the other week and how hot that was. And now we're going to go to the Citadel and just be on fire.
Tennessee State's going to be no air conditioning tank either.
All right. Well, you'll see that picture behind you from Colorado. I was wearing the black suit there.
Yeah.
Not doing that again.
Yeah.
Not going to do that again.
That was such a rookie move.
That was
so bad.
So bad.
We were just dying.
On a rooftop, too, in Colorado.
Not only that, the black suit was like this thick.
Yeah, it was not smart. Not smart at all. So I'm not going to do that at the Citadel in South Carolina this year.
Go to Timmy Halberstad. He'll set you up.
So give me your coolest suit. That's cool as in temperature-wise. So that'll be my plan. All right, I appreciate you coming on.
See you, Sam.
Thanks for taking a couple of minutes. We'll see you later this afternoon. Jeff Kolpack joining us on this Monday morning. We'll step aside. Hour number 2 coming up. Bill Chaves joins us on Hot Mic. That's next.
Hot Mic on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Back at it for hour number 2 on this Monday morning. A House Settlement Monday here on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on Inform.com and WDAY+. Big thank you to Jeff Kolpack for taking a couple of minutes here on this Monday morning, dissecting North Dakota State's decision to opt into the House settlement. On Friday, the University of North Dakota made it official that they are going to opt in to the House settlement as well. And here to tell us all about that decision is the athletic director himself, Bill Chaves, joining us on this Monday morning. Bill, thanks for taking some time today and helping us climb through the weeds, if you will, on what this all means. Before we get into the decision here for UND to opt in, I'm very curious from your aspect of it. You're a part of this. You're in the thick of it day in and day out. What has this been like for you, dissecting the House settlement, ultimately making the decision and following along with this as you learn around? What has this period of time been like for you?
Well, it's been interesting, Sam, and good morning. Happy to be here for sure. I think like any hopefully good administrator, you'd want to get as much information as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the tricky part to this has been. The defendant conferences at the time of the lawsuit, there were 5 defendant conferences and then the NCAA. So we were within the NCAA structure. And we're just trying to learn as we're going along. What did opt out mean and what did opt in mean? Mm-hmm. Well, once the settlement occurred on June 6th, actually it meant a little something different. And originally there was going to be, and I'll just use the term roster flexibility if you opted out prior to the actual settlement occurring. Well, once the actual settlement occurred, now there's actually the ability to grandfather some student athletes over the course of a 4-year period. And I would say if you said, well, what was the big difference maker for us? Because we were certainly an opt-in, we were an opt-out school at one point, right, and now we've flipped to an opt-in. It really based on the roster situation.
So that was the big piece that helped you flip your decision there. Opting in, what does this mean for the University of North Dakota, and why did you guys decide to go in that route?
Yeah, I think for us, obviously start with the roster grandfathering. That was number one. The opportunity at some point in time to provide internal name, image, and likeness, internal NIL. Certainly that's something that was attractive. And then aligning with those defendant conferences, I'm of the belief, my belief is that eventually everyone's going to be opted in. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of when. And so if you can get there sooner, why wouldn't you go there? But like I said, flipping it back 3 months ago would be like, well, it seemed like you're in flip-flop mode. Actually not. Things changed. Information changed. So we changed institutionally along with the information.
And to go with that, if everyone's going to opt in and they don't do it this year, they lose out on that ability of the grandfathering in. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct. And now I'm cautious. I'm cautious to say that's what it is today.
Yes.
And you know what? That's what I believe is today. That's what I've read. But you know what? I guess there could always be another court case that could change that up.
Right. Exactly right. Just have to see and go with the waves because it could change on a dime. You and I were talking before we went on the air here about how this is a very school-to-school based decision. It's different for every university out there. Mm-hmm. I'm curious from your guys' standpoint, noting that, seeing USD and SDSU and the Montana schools, did that play any impact in the decision to opt in at all?
So I will say it this way, and maybe this is the best way to think it through. I've had a lot of conversations with my counterparts trying to think what they're thinking based on what's their situation mm-hmm. at their institutions. So USD's sports array is different than ours.
Right.
Same with NDSU and SDSU. So the ultimate decision could be different from us, but I was trying to think from just a concept wise, why are you thinking about doing one or the other?
Right.
And, once we had those discussions, I didn't know what the other schools were going to do at that point in time. It just happens to be, it seems like we're all aligned at this point, but everyone was making their own individual decisions.
Again, it's important to note, I've been saying it all morning, this is just the beginning of all this. The decision to opt in or opt out, it's just the start. moving forward, what has to happen at the University of North Dakota to make this a successful path to maneuver down?
Yeah, I'm not so sure in the micro much. I
Okay.
think it's more in the macro
Mm-hmm.
that becomes the conversation. The opportunities and the abilities to do some things with your student athletes could be different moving forward, or it could be exactly the same.
Right.
This say for this upcoming year. So again, I still think that's a school by school decision. We're having a lot of conversations internally on campus on what effects this may have. But at the end of the day, I think each institution has to decide how they're going to approach this.
Going off of the press release that you guys sent out on Friday afternoon, and of course we've been talking about with NDSU opting in, what does this mean for the Green and Gold Collective? Well, they're now changing to the Green and Gold Fund, and the collective will now be dissolved. From your guys' standpoint, it sounds like the 1883 collective will still be around. I know you may not have a lot of answers to this, but what does the future look like for that collective?
Yeah, you know what? I think most institutions are going to decide what's their best situation moving forward. I think at this minute, Jonathan Holth and Matt Bonser have done a heck of a job for us providing opportunities for our student athletes. And I would say today, in this conversation, I feel like I'm back in COVID, Sam, but today, here we are. I think it was the right thing for us to maintain our collective and then see what's going to transpire on an institutional level, and maybe even in some ways use this year as a way for us to decide to chart our course beyond this year.
Right, exactly. I think that makes a ton of sense there. To build off of that, may not be in the near future, maybe more in the extended future. Will fans of the University of North Dakota or the students that go to the University of North Dakota, are they going to see an impact of this, specifically financially, in the form of ticket prices, what have you, to raise this money to help make this a successful thing?
Well, I'm not going to speak for my counterparts in the Dakotas, but I'm going to just say very broadly, I think we all provide an amazing opportunity for our student athletes. And so I think it just gives you an option to do different things. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do anything different. So, like I said, I think we were all headed to, if we're all on the interstate, we were all headed to the same exit. It's just a matter of when were you going to get to the exit?
Right.
And here we are getting to the exit, aligning ourselves with probably the majority of Division I schools at this point in time. Now, how each institution handles it, I think will be a specific to their situation.
Okay, gotcha. I'm curious, circling back to the conversation on roster limits, and we've talked about the importance of that now being grandfathered in. Can you shed some light on this? Because I'm sure people are wondering too, once we get down the road on this, and maybe this is something you're still trying to figure out as well, is this something hard conversations are going to have to be made here soon about potentially making that decision to cut some athletes, or does roster limits and roster cap sizes grandfather gradually come in based on smaller recruiting classes, if that makes sense? Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, you're on it. I think so. Two ways I'll answer this. One is there still is a federal law called Title IX. So Title IX, there's a Title IX compliance piece to all of our institutions, and we currently, there's three prongs to Title IX. We actually are prong one. That's how we adhere to Title IX, and in our percentages of student athletes is really within 1% of our student body. And so for us moving forward, the ability to have a 4-year runway, if you will,
right,
to maintain those numbers was incredibly important. I would say to you, and again, if the language that we are believing to be true, where that you wouldn't be able to grandfather beyond this year, provides us the opportunity to lessen certain rosters without knowing the actual humans who are being lessened. if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because we don't know who those people are.
Right.
But but next year you would absolutely know who they are because you'd have to go from X to Y.
Right. Okay. That clears things up a little bit on my end. So I appreciate you for shedding some light on that. Another part of all of this is the scholarship aspect to it, and of course, when you look at the Missouri Valley Football Conference, there's no set limit on the scholarship front there. Has there been conversations in your department on how you guys hope to attack that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think what you're referring to, and I think this is part of the opportunity in opting in, is that once you do get to roster sizes, you have the ability to scholarship everybody.
Yeah.
Ultimately. And we used to have, now I'm getting kind of in the weeds, I'll get administratively nerdy on you here, is it used to be a head count sport, which meant if I gave you a scholarship, it was 1.0, or some sports had equivalencies, meaning you and I could each get a half a scholarship. Now they're all equivalencies, and you can scholarship up to the roster number as well. I would say, in talking to a lot of my peers, I think at this point, I think everyone's trying to figure out and evolve this as we're moving forward this upcoming year, because many of us have budgets that are generally set for the upcoming year. Right. So, I've always been of the feeling that I want to give people as much runway as possible to have these conversations. So knowing now that we are opting in, a lot of these conversations will really go on at this stage of the game.
Again, Bill Chaves joining us from the University of North Dakota, the athletic director over there, chatting about the decision for the Fighting Hawks to opt into the House settlement here. I'm curious, how much has been provided for education to the student athletes, explaining this is what's going on? Do you get the sense that they have an idea of what's happening?
I think we try our best through our team specific. We do obviously have leadership groups, student athlete advisory committees. We try to get that leadership as dialed as possible. But as I first start with them, is much of this is changing on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, that we try to do our best in communicating, but their best opportunity is to ask a great question of us, and of course our doors and cells are always open. So I think they're generally okay with what is happening, but we're just in a minute, right now, until we get to the next iteration, I think, of the rules of engagement, and it's not all coming through the court system. Maybe it's got to come somewhere else. I still think we're kind of in this weird hybrid moment where things are going to continue to change, and we just have to be ready to pivot.
Right. To piggyback off of that and being ready to pivot, I imagine these coaches are riding the waves just like you guys are as well. How much did they have in helping you in this decision, or did they provide input on what they thought going into this?
Yeah, they were great. They've been great. It's never been a tougher time to be a coach right now.
Yeah.
And again, no one's going to feel sorry for the decisions we've made to work in higher ed, which is awesome, and to work with student athletes, which is great. And we're in athletics. So like don't misinterpret what I'm saying, but it is challenging to, in some ways, not knowing the rules of engagement. Right. And they've been great. We're better when we're communicating and we're getting things on a whiteboard and we're trying to figure it out. But I think they all knew to some level. I sat in front of them, in, I don't know if it was February, March, and I said, hey, with the roster pieces the way it is right now, I think we're going to be an opt-out school for the first year because of this. Then the thing flipped. And so now we're an opt-in school, but the reality, the reason was because of the roster situation. Right. So I stayed true to really what the opt-out was to the opt-in.
Right. I think not to be lost in all of this House settlement conversation is that this is really feels like an exciting time for the University of North Dakota athletic department. New coaches, new players, in some cases, new facilities in there. Just on the outside looking in, it seems like it's in a very exciting time to be involved in the University of North Dakota. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I said to Eric Martinson, our deputy AD, the other day, it's kind of fun. It's energizing.
Yeah.
I like literally don't know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis, and it actually is. But you got to be willing to figure out. You got to have a few tenets. One is what's in the best interest of our student athletes. What's in the best interest of the university, right? What's in the best interest for the state and how we represent the University of North Dakota. If you let it consume you, Sam, it can consume you.
Yeah.
I've seen some of my counterparts, I think, have decided to some degree, you know what, maybe it's better that I go do something else at some stage of the game. And I'm actually flipped the other way. This is actually somewhat exciting to some degree. Now, at some point, I do want us to get to a more consistent place than where we've been.
I'm curious from your standpoint, and you guys are in a situation that the other Dakota schools aren't in because of how prominent hockey is. How much was having the hockey program in mind, how much was that a part of your decision as well?
So weirdly, that's one of the sports that I wasn't concerned with on the roster side because we were at 26 already.
Right.
So we're already at the roster number. So that wasn't the issue per se. But I think some of the other opportunities we have in opting in, whether it's the internal NIL piece, it could be the scholarship piece at some stage of the game. I think we just have more tools in our toolbox. That's really what ends up happening at this point in time. And let's face it, if the defendant conferences have made these decisions and you want to play under the same Division I umbrella at the highest level, eventually you're going to have to get there anyways. So this just provided us the opportunity to do that. But you're right. I mean, hockey, when you're going up against the Minnesotas and Michigans and Ohio States and Penn States and Arizona State is in our league.
Yep.
So we have to be really thoughtful about what that means for a historic program like our hockey team.
Absolutely. Bill, I appreciate you coming on. One more before we let you go here. For those listening, moral of the story is the decision that you guys are making is what you feel is best to move North Dakota in a good direction. Is that a fair way to sum all that?
I think so. And, it's interesting. I think if you're at South Dakota, South Dakota State's always looking sometimes at what USD is doing, vice versa. Same in the state of North Dakota. And I was trying to tell as many people that would listen, hey, look, NDSU is going to make the right decision for themselves. We're going to make the right decision for ourselves. Now, it just happens to be the same decision.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean that Matt and I were on the phone talking, saying, hey, look, if you do this, I'll do that.
Right.
I mean, the reality of it is he had to do what was right for him, and we did what was right for us.
Bill, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes and breaking this down for us and what this means for the University of North Dakota. I'll let you get back into the mix of things and enjoy the rest of your Monday.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Bill Chaves joining us here on this Monday morning edition of Hot Mike, the athletic director at the University of North Dakota. Great having him on and chatting about what this means for athletics up in Grand Forks. Really good information in there, and I like what he said. And I know some of the talk from people have been, if one school opts in but the other one doesn't, then the one that doesn't is a step behind. I really don't feel like that's the case. And we'll dive more into this in just a little bit. I don't think that's the case, and exactly right. It's an institution-to-institution thing, and they're both looking to make the right decision that they feel is the right decision, and it just so happened to be the same decision in the case for North Dakota State and North Dakota. So, again, thank you to Bill for coming on. Are you getting all this? Is it retaining? For me, we'll see. Again, our poll question is up there. I'm curious your thoughts. I'm curious what you make of all this, especially on the North Dakota State side of things. What do you make of North Dakota State opting into the House settlement? Love it, don't like it, you're undecided, or you don't know what's going on. And I don't blame you if that's the case. We'll revisit that towards the end of the show here in just a little bit. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up our House settlement talk here for the day. We'll get you ready for the rest of the day. Also, some Timberwolves news to pass along. We'll get to that in our final half hour of the show. Hot Mike continues after this. 30 minutes left on this Monday morning edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on Inform.com and WDAY Plus. Lot going on this Newsy Monday. Again, big thank you to Bill Chaves for joining us. We're going to chat a little Timberwolves here coming up in just a couple of minutes, but we got to catch up on our time-wise here. Let's go back to break. When we come back, big news for the Timberwolves and also for some other sporting teams in the Twin Cities. We'll touch on that when we come back on this Monday morning. Breaking news once again on this Monday morning. It's been a breaking news kind of day. This is coming from the world of hockey. The Minnesota Wild has announced a new era is here. It will no longer be the XL Energy Center. Coming soon, it will be the Grand Casino Arena down there in the Twin Cities, home of the Minnesota Wild. What do you make of this? I don't know. The XL Energy Center, as a guy who grew up in Minnesota, have gone to plenty of events at the X. It was iconic. The name was just iconic. I can guarantee you not everybody knew what the XL Energy was, but that name, XL Energy Center, was an iconic name for a facility. Now it's changing over to the Grand Casino Arena. Very interested your thoughts on that and what you make of that moving forward. It's a 14-year naming rights partnership that begins in early September 3rd, 2025. Of course, the Minnesota Wild in that facility, they hold over 150 sporting and entertainment events annually in downtown St. Paul. They say the partnership is a dream. Grand Casino Arena gives us an incredible platform to engage fans, tell our story in bold new ways, and bring the Grand Casino experience to downtown St. Paul. That's the head of marketing over at Grand Casino.
It's still always going to be the X.
Exactly. Right?
Coming from a fan who's Miller Park went to American Family Field, and they're trying to find up with all these cool names. It'll always be Miller Park.
I totally agree.
It'll always be the X.
I agree. Obviously.
Just like Target Field, and if the Wolves decide to move, it'll probably get changed to something, but Target somehow needs to be in there.
Right. There's too many people that are used to XL Energy Center and what you mentioned with the Brewers as well. I think if the Metrodome were still around and they changed the name of the Metrodome to Grand Casino Dome, and it would still be called the Metrodome, people would still call it the Metrodome. Hey, good for them. I'm sure they're getting plenty of money in that as well. Another thing in the release here, as a part of this new partnership, all exterior and interior signage will be replaced to identify Grand Casino Arena, including the center ice signia. I'm curious what that's going to look like. All the arena's signage will be replaced before the start of the upcoming NHL regular season. So they got to get cooking on that. That's coming up here in a couple of months. Interesting. I'll be curious what that looked like. I loved everything that they had going at the XL Energy Center with the branding of that, the center ice logo as well. I'll be curious. I'll be really curious about that. I'm still most likely going to call it the X. When you go down to the Twin Cities for the state hockey tournament, you're going to the X. Now it's going to feel weird when a high schooler says, yeah, we're going to the casino to watch hockey. I'm sure that's what the shortened version of that is going to be. But interesting. So that's the gist there. 14 years is the naming rights on that partnership. Eric's pulling up another breaking news. Oh, this is a big one. I like it. Throw it up here, Eric. EA Sports announces they are bringing back an NCAA basketball game. That coming from Bleacher Report. I love it. I was a huge video game guy back in the day. I have tamed off on that since leaving college. But I will say, I was the first in line for the EA NCAA college football game, and I thought it was fantastic. Best game I've ever played. And the 2026 version is coming out soon, if not out already, with some major changes. And now you got basketball in the mix. I used to have it back in the day when, it was like 2K8, 2K6. There was an Ohio State athlete on the cover. I used to have it then. It was not a good game, but it was fun. It's fun. You can play NBA 2K all you want, but when it's at a college level, there's a different feel to it, and it's a lot of fun.
You know how fun this is going to be?
That's going to be awesome.
Now, the only thing that they need to bring back, and I don't know if you played this, but I would play this every morning before school, college baseball.
Oh, yes. I loved that one as well.
Playing in all those fun stadiums, and playing a 3-game set.
Well, really, with the avenue of where we're going in college athletics, you got to imagine that game's got to be around the corner, right?
You would think.
Did you see, Eric, that the institutions will be paid based on how many people play with their school in the NCAA football game?
So can we? I did not see that. So can we get like the FCS schools now in here?
Well, no, I think it's going to be a little while until you get like the North Dakota States, South Dakota States of the world in the mix there. But from what I've gathered, I don't know how true it is, but from what I've gathered, and again, it's not going to be tons and tons of money, but if you play, let's say, the Gophers, because they're the closest one on there to our region, if you play with them, a ton of people play with them. I guess the Gophers get a cut in that, from what it sounds like. I don't know if that'll be the case in this basketball game, and hopefully baseball in there as well. Could you imagine maneuvering the house settlement in a video game? We're trying to do it in real life, and it's blowing my mind. Now try doing that in a video game.
Yeah, good luck. I still have no idea what I understand a little bit of it.
I think it's interesting in the college football game. They did a really good job, and it sounds like they're going to expand on that this upcoming year, implementing the transfer portal. And you can start a program and try to maneuver the transfer portal. And I think that's interesting because now fans can live what it's like to try to move throughout this unprecedented era. And, of course, it's not the real thing. I mean, in real life, the transfer portal is crazy. This in a video game wasn't that hard. But it's interesting to get different viewpoints on that. And there you go.
Also, in the new college football game, you can start as like a high schooler.
Yeah. That's,
but it's not like
that's coming up in the new
you're not
one.
Playing your full high school
right,
career. You're playing certain scenarios to get you to someplace, and I don't know.
Well, big news there for us video game nerds. I'm curious. I'm curious how that's going to shape out. I'm grabbing both of them. There's no doubt about that. I don't play as much as I used to, but when you get college sports in a video game, I'm grabbing them. No doubt.
Xbox or PS?
I got an Xbox.
There you go.
I flip back and forth. Xbox, I can.
They need to run it where you can play cross-platform, like an Xbox user can play a PlayStation user.
I would agree. I didn't know that you couldn't do that, but I guess
I don't think you can unless they changed it in this one. In the first one, you couldn't.
I have no idea. I'm not a huge video game guy, nerd, if you will, but I would agree with you. That would be fun. Okay, we got a couple of minutes. Those are some of the breaking news headlines. We got a couple more that we're going to get to in a couple of minutes here as well to wrap up our show. Wanted to take a second to chat about the Timberwolves. Obviously, huge news over the weekend. NBA draft has come and gone. We saw the Wolves grab 2 giants from overseas. I had never heard of them. One of them sounds like they'll be here. Johan Behringer will be here this upcoming season. The other one from Australia is going to be more of a stash pick. We'll see him after a little while. Couple of guys that I didn't know. I don't know how they're going to pan out. But I look at that in the same breath. Did anyone know who Kristaps Porzingis was when he was drafted? No. He ended up all right. Giannis Antetokounmpo, no one knew who he was when he was picked. He's pretty good. Maybe it's a situation like that. I don't know. Keep an open mind on that as we go on. But, of course, the offseason is moving through, and it looks like the Wolves are prioritizing big men. No doubt about that. Looking for size. Kevin Durant, like a shooting star, that conversation came and went. It was gone in a blink of an eye, and he's no longer out there. So, over the weekend, a couple of key questions as to what was going to happen moving forward. Key pieces from a year ago we were curious about if the Wolves were going to retain. On Friday, we learned that the Wolves are keeping Naz Reid. They got the big deal done. 5-year, $125 million extension for Naz Reid, one of the best bench players in the NBA. Huge keep for the Minnesota Timberwolves. A lot of people, myself included, they didn't think that the Wolves would be able to keep a guy like Naz Reid for the role that he had and the role that he wants and the money that he would demand. I didn't think it was possible. I'll be honest. I'm so glad they had it. I'm so glad they did it. And I'm sure there was a huge sigh of relief for the Minnesota Timberwolves fans, which are a lot of them, that got Naz Reid tattoos or have gotten millions of the promotional towels that they released. But big news here for the Wolves. They keep a key piece coming off of the bench. I'm curious what his role is going to be moving forward. They got him for 5 years, $125 million, as I mentioned. But you got to play the guy a lot. I feel like you got to keep him happy because he has been a bright star for Minnesota. He's been a fun player to watch as well. Can do it from all levels on the floor. The other big offseason question was, what's going to happen with Julius Randle? And last night we found that out as well. The Wolves agreed to a 3-year, $100 million extension yesterday with Julius Randle. That comes with a player option for 2027, 2028. Randle averaged 18, 7, and 4 last season, was a good number 2 to Ant, came off of injury, found his role. He was fantastic in the postseason. He's 30 now, so by the time his contract comes up to an end, he'll be 33 when the deal is done. That's not extremely old in basketball years, but it's starting to get up there a little bit. Hey, you're keeping a lot of what we saw last year, and last year the talent was good. I don't see anything wrong with that. I still feel like there should be a stronger number 2 option behind Ant in the scoring category, and maybe Julius Randle will turn into that. Maybe someone else will jump into that mold. Who knows? But also with this Julius Randle news coming down the mix, that means the Wolves likely don't have enough salary cap to retain Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So you can flush him from your minds if you're a Minnesota Timberwolves fan. He's going to be out the door, which I think that's okay. Obviously, he was a key part of the team, especially down the stretch. But there's young talent in the mix for Minnesota. I don't think that's going to be the biggest loss in the world. From what I've seen, Detroit, I think Atlanta is in the mix big for Alexander Walker. So we'll see what happens there. Tough news, but not the end of the world in my opinion. Naz Reid and Julius Randle were bigger must-haves at this point than keeping Nickeil, which is all right. So you go, now that you've learned this news, look back at the Cat trade a while back. Wolves got Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, which I'll try not to embark down this road, but I could do without him. I really could. I could do without DiVincenzo. I'm not huge on his boat. But they got him as well, which there was times he was good. No doubt about that. Johan Behringer, now a part of that Cat trade as well. And they also had the flexibility to re-sign Naz Reid. Worked out for the Wolves. Worked out for the Wolves, in my opinion. Worked out for the Knicks as well. They got Cat, and they had a good year with him. I think that was a win-win in my book. We'll see what Behringer can do when he comes up to the NBA. I would imagine now with Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid sticking around that he's not going to get a ton of minutes, but don't know. We'll have to see from there. And, of course, with big contracts coming here for Naz Reid and Julius Randle, what does that mean moving forward as we navigate through free agency here over the next couple of weeks in the NBA? Well, really, the Wolves, they don't have a bunch of wiggle room here, so don't expect that huge name coming in. That's just not going to happen. They can likely go out and get a guy, but it's not going to be a big scoring threat. It's not going to be a big-name guy, essentially. I would imagine it sounds like they're looking for a ball handler, which I think is exactly what they need in this point in time. Mike Conley's still around, isn't he? How old is he? He's got to be close to 40, right? They need to find somewhere to help bolster that area of the backcourt here for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So we'll keep our eye on that. We'll see what's going on with the Minnesota Wolves. But good news there. Naz Reid back, Julius Randle back. See if we can run it back and go for 3 straight conference finals, and maybe this time, third time's the charm, punch through to the NBA Finals. We'll have to see. We'll have to see, and we'll keep up to date on free agency as more news comes down over this week as well while Dom is out on vacation. That being said, let's take a break. We got a couple of more breaking news stories to pass along your way. We'll get into our what to watch, and we'll get out the door on this Monday morning. It's coming up next on Hot Mic. More breaking news on this Monday morning, this time in the NFL. Adam Schefter tweeting out the full terms of today's Steelers and Dolphins blockbuster trade that just went down not too long ago. Steelers, they're going to get Jalen Ramsey. They're going to get Jonnu Smith as well, a tight end. And they're getting a 7th-round pick in the year 2027. The Dolphins getting Minkah Fitzpatrick. Really, really good safety. They're also getting a 5th-round pick in the year 2027. Yeah, Minkah was drafted by Miami. Now will make his way back over there. So a couple of big-time names, big-time defensive backs going from Pittsburgh to Miami. I'll let you decide on who's the winner of that trade. Other breaking news in the WNBA. The WNBA announced it will expand to 18 teams, with new teams in Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia. Interesting. 3 cities that are deeply rooted in the NBA, have great history of basketball there. We'll see what they can do now venturing into this league. It's going to be a staggered starts for these 3 teams. Cleveland will play in 2028, followed by Detroit in 2029. Philadelphia in 2030. I'm curious what the process is going to be to figure out team mascots for all of that. Who knows? Interesting there. Other stuff, Eric wanted to make sure we got these on the show at some point today. Out of the American Association, the same league that the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks play in. What is this, Kane County, right, Eric? Kane County, the Cougars. They had their alternate jerseys over the weekend, SpongeBob themed. Everybody loves SpongeBob. I think those are pretty slick. I feel like I've seen a few SpongeBob themed jerseys before, but those ones are pretty solid. I'm a fan of those ones. So, hey, congrats to King County. Also, while we're on the topic of alternate jerseys, the St. Paul Saints rebranded over the weekend for a game. They went to the Ghostly Gangsters. Crookshaven Ghostly Gangsters, and that was to pay homage to the history of gangster life in the early days of the Twin Cities. I think these are slick. The fact that they were only there for a game is saddening because those are pretty awesome. I love the black and the red. Go over a couple of pictures, Eric. The hat logo is in here. Yeah, right there. That was on their hats. I think that's awesome. What are they called? Crooner or something like that. Got the top hat, the stitches as the face. I think that was awesome. They made national headlines, I think, on SportsCenter over the weekend for their rebrand here. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. They're implementing some history out of the Twin Cities as well. Eric, you'll have to explain this other one a little bit more. A minor league team in Wisconsin also rebranding. Was this over the weekend as well? What are they again? The Timber Rattlers? Is that right, Eric? That's over by your neck of the woods? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they're called the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, and obviously Wisconsin's the dairy state of America. So they rebranded themselves to the Wisconsin Udder-Tuggers every weekend. And they sell this like for 4 days. They'll do it for 4 days. Stadium is packed.
Did you buy one?
This one? No.
Oh.
I mean, I have a couple, like...
What a name.
I have a couple shirts and stuff that you probably see me wear around with the logo on it and stuff, but...
Well, there you go. Well, of course, this show is the jersey hotbed. Always got to get your thoughts on jerseys. I love the rebrands in minor league baseball, so there's a couple there. Before we get out the door, let's get into our what to watch here quickly on this Monday morning. All right, what to watch today? Honestly, not a ton, but a big one is the North Dakota State press conference coming up this afternoon at 2 o'clock. They will discuss their decision into opting into the House settlement. That's been the big news today on this Monday morning as we wrap up the month of June. They got it in right at the deadline, so we'll have that for you on WDAY Plus. And if you miss it, don't worry, we'll get you caught up tomorrow on the show. MLB, San Diego at Philadelphia at 5:30, San Francisco at Arizona at 8:45. No Twins today. Twins back in action tomorrow. They got some news as well that will get you back up to speed on that coming up on tomorrow's show. Big thank you to Jeff Kolpack and Bill Chaves for helping me out trying to navigate the wild seas of the House settlement. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning. We'll see you back here tomorrow.